In the past, Indiana state law required all counties to have a poor farm for the indigent, the disabled, the insane, or anyone without anyone to care for them. They were called inmates, or friendless. Family units were segregated inside the walls. There was hard labor. Everyone worked on these farms because they needed to be self-sufficient. There was disease, lack of medical care, tragedies, accidents, and death. This was reality of life there. It would be hard to believe that within the very few of these structures that still remain, the memories of the people who once inhabited them did not leave residual psychic wounds imprinted there. Or maybe a few residents are still not ready to give up the ghost, so to speak. This is highlights from Paraholics.com's paranormal investigation of one of these structures, the beautiful Scott County Heritage Center and Museum. This former poor farm/asylum for Scott County, as it now stands, was built in 1892. Today it is also a museum of the area's rich history with artifacts from the Civil War incursion by the Confederate Calvary led by Brigadier General John Hunt Morgan, known as Morgan's Raid, as well as train robberies by the Reno Brothers Gang. History combined with the many recorded tragedies and deaths, as well as others unknown due to poor farm records being destroyed by fire, and decades of accounts of unexplainable phenomena on the property, we were excited for our October investigation that would bleed into Halloween at the stroke of midnight. Please note, most responses are heard upon review and not in real time. Changes in the video's filter visually mark the replies that were the most significant. Those various audio responses have been enhanced, repeated, and sometimes slowed down. As always, we do not offer this video as irrefutable evidence of the paranormal, nor do we claim our annotations are 100% conclusive. All we're asking is that you please approach the data presented here with a curious mind, and that you wear damn headphones. But before we begin the investigation, it's always imperative to get words of wisdom from our very own retired chief of detectives, New Albany's Mike Caldwell.
There's the man of the hour.
Down around Fort Knox, is that where you're from?
What's up, buddy?
Howdy.
You got any word for your YouTube fans?
I just
Okay.
curious of how they feel about the rectum as a whole.
From down around Fort Knox. I guess that's why I thought you guys were that group.
It's gonna be a fun night.
Fortunately, we were joined by volunteers of the Scott County Heritage Center, Lynn and Tracy. They've been associated with the building for over 20 years and gave us our tour.
This building was built in 1892. This was actually the second building on this site. The first being the wood structure. Or I don't know if they outgrew it, burnt down. Nobody really knows what happened to that structure. But this one was built in 1892. It was a law in the state of Indiana that every county had to have a place to house its poor. And this was Scott County. So there were, at one time, 92 poor farms in the state of Indiana. This one functioned as a poor farm partially up until 1973, when the last inmate, as they called them, they didn't call them residents, they called them inmates, was moved out. So by that time it had already started to become county offices. When the last resident moved out, they used it in that function until the county gave it to the community foundation. The community foundation turned around and sold it to Preservation Alliance, who turned it into the museum and refurbished it. But when it functioned as a poor farm, it was 180 acres, self-sufficient farm pretty much. If you lived here, you had to work. You didn't get to lounge around in the building all day long. If you were capable, you had to go. You had chores to do. They'd get you up, feed you breakfast, take you out to the fields, whatever your chore was for the day. That's what you did. They'd bring you in lunch, feed you lunch, you go back out, and at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, they'd bring you in, feed you supper, and you could go to your sitting room, and 7 o'clock it was lights out. And then the next morning, bright and early, it's back up and do it again. But they were everybody was separated. Even if you came here as a family, say you had man, woman, and 2 children, you couldn't live together that way. Men had their own sitting and sleeping rooms, women had their own sitting and sleeping rooms, and we were told the children slept in the attic. So, plus being called an inmate, don't paint it in a very good light anyway. You weren't a resident, you're an inmate. But at different times, there were people here that had mental problems or physically handicapped in some way. So it wasn't a pleasant place to live,
Some of the poor farms we've been to around the state usually have like a potter's field cemetery associated with them. Is there one here for this one?
There used to be, and we weren't sure. We'd heard they'd been plowed under by the farmer that owns that property now, or used to. He's passed away. But a guy doing research just found out this week that the 11 bodies that had been buried in the cemetery had been reinterred in the Scottsburg Cemetery, which is right across the railroad tracks.
All those years of being a poor farm, there's only 11? That's pretty amazing.
Well, we also heard there was a small plot across Main Street, but we don't know that for sure either. But they did find a lot of records where just because they died here, they weren't buried here.
Right.
They were buried in a lot of the local cemeteries in different places around.
Yeah.
So there were a lot more than 11 deaths in this building.
Is there a record of how many people may have passed away that lived here?
The records that the poor farm kept itself when they closed it down is they took out in the yard and set them on fire. The local historian here at the time when that happened went crazy and drug some of them off of the fire, and they're in a plastic bag. If you open that bag, it just chokes you to death from the smoke. All the records are up in Indianapolis, and we had a woman several years ago go up and get, what we could afford to buy because you had to pay for all the copies. And I have gone through some of those and found probably a couple of dozen names of people that died here because up until the early 1830s, Scott County didn't have a hospital. So if you lived here and you got sick here, you stayed here and either got better or you died. And the room just above the gift shop was the infirmary.
Okay.
So
wow.
Don't ignore any place that's available because we've had stuff happen. In this room, we've had stuff, it happened in all parts of the room. Let's do a little quick walk around.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing to keep your ears open for is a cat.
Oh, really?
There are no cats in this building, but dang near every time we're in here, somebody hears it, and then a meow one time. And it's been heard in all parts of the building, downstairs, upstairs, everywhere. This room, about the only thing, we were in here, Tracy and I and a friend of ours named Eddie were in here one night, and I was in the gift shop listening to the EVPs, and they come in here, and they decided they were gonna go in this door. Well, you can see there's no doorknob there. And he said, as he reached for the doorknob, he didn't realize it wasn't there, but he said a burst of cold air shot out of that hole. And he said on the other side of it, him and Tracy both heard what sounded like a kid running from this door toward the other room. They said they could even feel it in the
Cool.
floor.
Wow.
Now, at the time that happened, there were a lot of baby clothes, old, late 1800s and very early 1900s baby clothes and those kinds of things in there. And our director said when that display was set up in there, it was very active even during the daytime. A lot of noises coming out of this room. But other than that, see, they're getting ready for silent auction or something, so there's stuff sitting everywhere. About the only other thing, when we first started doing tours, we let a group in here, and everybody's, or nearly everybody's, equipment died at the same time in this room. And it's only happened at one time. But again, just because not much goes in here, don't ignore it, because you never know. Let's go ahead and go upstairs now.
Okay.
Just kind of show you the layout. This room right here to the right, there's been quite a lot happen in this room. We've had women hugged.
Oh boy.
We had a little girl that saw a kind of a grayish shadow standing in front of her one night. We had one woman, or was she? A lot of times she's helping us. So she said somebody whispered in her ear in this room one night. This door has hit two different people. It can't move now. Well, that was before the upstairs was even finished. This hallway, there's been a lot of shadows seen. People have seen the cat in that hallway. They'll see little shapes dart around door casings. We've had people complain of their cat allergies while they're in the building. Or they'll be sitting somewhere and they'll say, I just felt something rub against my ankle. You know, so keep an eye out and keep an ear out for the cat. There was a woman in here during the day, come out of that door from this room. Now there's another door down there. And she walked out into the hallway and she said there were two women standing here in the hallway staring at her. One of them was pointing at her and had her mouth open, wide open, like she was screaming, but there was no noise. So she just went directly downstairs. She went to a lady at the desk and she said, is this building haunted? And Jeannie said, well, yeah, there's people that believe it is. She said, well, I believe it is. And the people that I'm with, you tell them I'll be waiting in a car. So, all this furniture up here came out of this house, which used to sit in Lexington, Indiana, at a place called Englishton Farm. William H. English, who ran for the vice presidency in 1880s. You had to run to be you weren't picked as a running mate back then. You had to run for vice president. This was the infirmary. Now it's kind of our war room. We've got a lot of war relics and what have you.
Wow.
There's a pistol in here that was dropped by Morgan's raiders. This was found at Lexington, Indiana, right after Morgan's men rode out. So, but at one time, now it's just a musty smell in here because of all this stuff. But at one time, we were in here one night and we could smell like old medicine. We kind of believe that some of the spirits here have been brought in with different things.
Oh,
So,
right.
You know, with this war stuff in here and what have you, or with even the furniture and stuff. I mean, you know, we think that some things have been brought in with different items.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's incredible.
But that rifle was donated by a man. That's a rifle from World War I. Donated to somebody. Brought it home from the war, I guess. infirmary. This is just a little hallway that has the genealogy, the historical society stuff in it. This is the elevator shaft, so that's why it kind of makes a little weird hallway. Now, especially don't ignore this bathroom area. Remember I said if you came here to live, you lived separately, but you lived in, men had sleeping rooms, so they all slept together. This was the only private room in the building because the woman that slept in this room couldn't get along with the other adults. And she could get along with children, but she couldn't get along with the adults. So in order to keep peace all through the night, this was her room. Now when she went to bed, they locked her in this room. You can still see the hash mark where they would padlock this room and lock her in it. There's an older lady here in town, I don't even know if she's still alive. Her parents were superintendents here in the late 30s, early 40s. Her dad always told her, if the building catches on fire, the first thing you gotta do is make sure somebody's called the fire department. The second thing you gotta do is go and lock Mary's room. So the building was more important than Mary.
Wow.
So, but now Mary loved the cats outside, the way the story we've been told. And so we think maybe that's why there's still a cat that hangs around, is because of Mary's spirit. But people have gotten responses in here to questions, when they've asked Mary to knock on something, she's responded and they've gotten knocks. I was up here with somebody one night. I can't remember if they got a knock or if they got a whistle. I can't remember now. It's been so
Do they know about how old she was?
I have seen her obituary. We have a copy of it here somewhere, but I'm not sure how old she was. But she had come in one night, and so, according to the story, come in one night, got ready for bed, and then went back out to fool with the cats. And it was kind of a cold, rainy evening, and she caught pneumonia and she died. So I'm assuming since this was her room, this is where she died.
Yeah.
But we've had people, before this was all finished, they got their hair pulled in this room. They would get a poke every once in a while or something. But, and like I said, we still get responses. This room is locked because this is where they do all their logging and cataloging in that room. You can't hardly walk in there. I do have one more room downstairs I want to show you. But this back hallway, we've had probably 4 or 5 full-bodied apparitions
Just this back hallway.
back in this hallway. One night, we had just finished up an hour and a half tour, and we were sitting in the gift shop, and Eddie, the guy that sometimes with us, he's sitting in that desk chair facing down this hallway. Well, I was sitting in the chair facing in that room where y'all got your stuff laid out. Well, out of the corner of my eye, and there was a man and woman standing there. They were getting ready to go out the door. They were standing there talking after the tour. And so out of the corner of my eye, I saw just kind of a flash of light go across. This wasn't here at the time. Just kind of a flash of light go across here. Well, Eddie was looking down this hall. When I looked over at him, I could tell he'd seen something. I said, "You seen something, didn't you?" And before he could say anything, the guy that was getting ready to go out the door bolted, came running down through this hallway. And he said, when he turned this corner, there was a woman in a white dress walked into that genealogy room. Well, that door was locked.
Wow.
And, all right, we're going to go right back here to this last little room. Back in 1894, this was the women's sitting room. Earlier in the year of 1894, there was a girl that was brought here, an 18-year-old girl by the name of Vivi Mace that was brought here. And Vivi had some sort of issues, and we don't really know exactly what. She couldn't really do much for herself. the superintendent would put different women in charge of her daily to get her up, get her dressed, get her down to the dining room, get her fed, and then they would bring her into this room and put her in a chair while they had to go out and do their chores. And then they would come in periodically and check on her. Well, it was November, I think it was November 18th, 1894. They had went through that ritual of getting her up, getting her fed, and brought her in here and set her in a chair, and the woman went out. She come back in, and Vivi had gotten up and opened the door to the wood stove. And the woman scolded her, shut the stove door, told her to leave the stove alone, sit down there and not bother anything. Well, the woman come back in to get her at lunch. When she walked into this room, Vivi was in the floor on fire. She had gotten up, opened the stove door, and had attempted to reach in and pull a piece of wood out and caught her clothing on fire.
And how old was she?
She was 18. Vivi died after just, a couple of minutes if she lasted that long. So
That was all in here.
that was all in here.
Wow.
We had a young girl on a tour one night with her mother, and we walked in this room and we hadn't even mentioned Vivi. And the little girl was going, "Quick, go away, go away." And her mom says, "What's wrong with you? What are you doing?" She said, "There's a woman in the floor. She's crawling toward me with her hand held out." Well, it was then we told her. And she said, "Oh, her name's Violet or something like that." And so we all kind of thought, wow,
We decided to start off our night with an ITC experiment, an EVP session, in the very room we began in. After I set up the laser grid out in the hallway, I asked Lynn if he would be kind enough to introduce us to the spirits of the poor farm.
Hey guys, we're going to do an EVP session in here, and if you don't mind, we'd like for you two to join us for this and kind of introduce us to the spirits of the poor farm, if you're cool with that.
We're willing to do whatever you guys need us to do or want us to do.
Yeah, let's go ahead and kill the lights then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead in there and turn those off, Chris.
Pretty, please.
Ready?
Yeah, did you hear a footstep upstairs?
I didn't hear anything, but I can't hear very well. So.
Maybe it's something else.
But a lot of times if we just sit here real quiet, we'll hear stuff.
Hear stuff? Okay. Yeah, we're ready.
Okay. If there's anybody here with us tonight here at the Poor Farm, new residents, we've got some friends with us tonight. There's no reason for you to be afraid of them. Come out and speak with them. Come out and let them take your picture. They're not here to hurt you in any way. Tracy and I, we're not here to hurt you in any way. And I will let each one of these people introduce themselves. Just please be kind and let them know you're here. That's all they're interested in, is just some interaction with you all.
I appreciate that. Thanks. My name is Matthew.
I'm Mike.
I'm Carr.
And I'm Lindsay.
And you know me, so. How is everybody doing tonight?
You were telling us some of the names of some of the residents. We had Mary
Phillips,
and
Vivi Mace, Barney Hardy. Also know that there was a Carrie that lived here. So if you all are here with us, can you give us some sort of sign? I know when you were alive and you lived here, this part of the building was only for the superintendent and his family, and I know that you weren't allowed in this part of the building, but you are now. You are allowed to be in this part of the building. Can you make some sort of noise?
I found it interesting, following that EVP, that right before Lynn granted permission to the spirits of the former residents to communicate with us in the superintendent's area, was the EVP of, "I can't, he'll kill me." Was this in reference to fear of entering that space that they originally were not allowed to be in? A few of the following replies seem to be relevant to this concept.
Yeah, anywhere we're at, please come and try to speak to us. We really want to hear your voice. We have tools we can use to help you hear your voice too. So please come talk to us.
Please come talk to us. Please come talk to us. Please come talk to us.
If you're in the hallway, can you let us know you're in there? Are you guys hearing that thud?
Yeah.
I heard that.
I've heard it a couple times. I kept looking at everyone's feet like, is there someone else doing that? But it sounds like it's out there. We heard you walking around. Come closer because we'd like to talk to you, please. We're just interested in who you are, that's all.
You are, that's all. You are, that's all. You are, that's all.
There's a fancy red light in the hallway that won't hurt you, but if you cross through it, it'll make a beeping noise and let us know you're out there. So feel free to walk in front of it. Did you hear it again? Feel free to walk in front of it and we'll know that you're out there as well.
There as well. There as well. There as well.
Are all the children upstairs?
Are children upstairs? Are children upstairs? Are children upstairs?
I know it's past lights out, but tonight's a special night. We've got friends visiting, and they want to visit with you, so you can, again, get up, enjoy yourself tonight. The superintendent is not going to get on to you or be mad at you for being up at this time of night.
Time of night. This time of night. This time of night.
Michael, I know you're going to ask a question.
Well, just want to let you know that no matter what kind of hand life dealt you, right now, you are very, very important to us.
Has anybody seen the kitty cat running around here? Is that Mary's cat?
The Mary's cat. The Mary's cat. The Mary's cat.
Alright, we'll play this back and just see if we got anything and then we'll move on. Appreciate it, guys.
No problem.
Friends with us tonight. There's friends with us tonight. There's no reason
What the hell was that?
come out.
It's upstairs or something, right?
Come out. Let us take your picture.
That was loud.
I could feel it.
Yeah.
It was either in the
'cause I
hallway
thought-
or it was upstairs. I couldn't tell which.
Did you hear it?
I thought it was like my foot like pushing on a creaky board because I felt it in my feet.
Right.
Well,
did
I
too.
seen the look you gave me and I was
Yeah.
like,
I
heard
backed
it,
up. I was
and I
like,
seen you look at me
Yeah.
about the same time, so I knew you'd heard it.
yeah, that was loud. And like
why
heavy.
don't you go up there real quick
Yeah.
and see what's
I'll
going
go
on?
yeah,
there.
cool. Michael, come on.
Yeah.
I'll go up there by myself.
Oh, I know you will. That's so fun.
I went upstairs by myself.
All right, let's try playing this.
Even during the EVP review, the thuds, thumps, or footsteps continued. But nothing ever triggered the alarm in the hallway. But most of what I heard seemed to originate on the second floor.
I cannot wait to review
I swear that one said
Said what?
help us. After you were talking about
Yeah.
After I was talking.
Yeah, I did too.
because you said something about help.
I couldn't tell what they were saying, but
definitely getting
I'm
something.
gonna have to
Yeah.
definitely clean that up and listen to it. That's why I love these old recorders because, I mean, they're still digital, but they're not as.
Yeah.
There's more like white noise to them, and I swear it makes it easier for spirits to leave their voices on.